So Joe Biden, obviously, as many of you know, is running for president, and he did not have a very good week this past week. He got caught up in a little bit of I wouldn't say controversy necessarily. I mean, I think it's a little bit too early to really get involved in controversies right now, but it's a little bit of a pickle, I would say, for him, considering his history of just kind of not being a very good candidate, especially when he ran in 2008, even worse in 1988, I believe it was. So, so Joe Biden has been criticized for his lack of a specific policy plan on climate change, and it appears that he actually copied his supposed climate change, off of a climate change organization website, like a website, or not a website, I'm sorry, an organization that is kind of tackling the issue of climate change. And it appears that he and his campaign and his team kind of just basically plagiarized what was on their website and made it their own. And considering the history of plagiarizing that Joe Biden has, that's not surprising, because that's something that plagued his 1988 campaign, and he barely even got off to any kind of a decent start back then. What was it? How many years ago was that? Almost more than 30 years ago. He barely got off to even a decent start, and he was already caught for plagiarizing, and he had to drop out. And then 2008, I don't even remember what happened in 2008. He just pretty much just went into the debates, didn't do well, and then he dropped out. And then, I don't know how much percentage it was in the polls. He was like 2 or 3% in the polls, but then he got chosen by Obama as his VP, as everybody knows. And that was pretty much it for Biden. So what happened here is, they plagiarized some global warming or climate change rhetoric, and passed it off as their own, and they claim it's a mistake. So that's what the headline says here. It's Joe Biden's climate plan appears to be directly copy multiple lines from other organizations. His campaign says it was a mistake. So let's just check this article out here. There's a couple of sub-headlines here. It says Democratic presidential candidate and former Vice President Joe Biden released a climate change proposal on Tuesday. This article is from June 4th. So it was about 5 days ago. Democratic presidential candidate and former Vice President Joe Biden released a climate change proposal on Tuesday. In at least 3 instances, Biden's plan appears to directly copy language from letters and websites from four other climate change advocacy organizations. Biden's 1988 presidential campaign largely failed because of plagiarism accusations after he copied a speech from a UK member of parliament. Wow. So let's check out this article here. It's kind of long. I'm going to see if, just kind of skim through it a little bit, hopefully. We'll see what happens, see what we can find out. So it says Democratic presidential candidate and former Vice President Joe Biden released on Tuesday a comprehensive proposal to combat global climate change, adding to the mix of candidates who have made rolling back dangerous emissions a central tenet of their campaigns. But multiple sentences in Biden's proposal appear to lift passages from letters and websites for different organizations. The copied sentences are particularly notable because of Biden's past history of plagiarism, which played a major role in taking his 1988 presidential campaign. The potential plagiarism instances were first flagged by Josh Nelson, the vice president of Credo Mobile, a telecommunications company that also raises money for liberal activist groups and causes. Insider found another instance as well. I guess Insider is another publication. In Biden's plan, the campaign wrote about carbon capture technology. Quote, carbon capture use and storage, CCUS. I guess that's a euphemism for that. is a rapidly growing technology that has the potential to create economic benefits for multiple industries while significantly reducing carbon dioxide emissions. But in a letter that Blue-Green Alliance Executive Director Kim Glass sent to the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works, the sentence is virtually the exact same. And so here's the sentence from, what is this? Is this a sentence from, I guess, that Blue-Green Alliance organization. So this one says, carbon capture and sequestration, CCS, is a rapidly growing technology that has potential to create economic benefits for multiple industries while significantly reducing carbon dioxide, CO2 emissions. Yeah, that's pretty much the same. The only difference is that first part where it says carbon capture, use, and storage, which is what Biden's campaign used, and the other climate change group used, the environmental group used carbon capture and sequestration. And then just added the part about rapidly growing technology that has potential to create economic benefits for multiple industries while significantly reducing carbon dioxide emissions. Says another instance of copied lines appears where the Biden campaign wrote about its goals regarding carbon capture. This is from the Biden campaign. It says Biden's goal is to make CCUS a widely available, cost-effective, and rapidly scalable solution to reduce carbon emissions to meet mid-century's climate goals. That line is almost identical to our work section of the website for the Carbon Capture Coalition Center for Climate and Energy Solutions. They say its goal is to make carbon capture, use, and storage, CCUS, a widely available, cost-effective, and rapidly scalable solution to reduce carbon emissions to meet mid-century climate goals. A third example appears in a description of water infrastructure. Biden's plan describes U.S. sewage systems. Let's see, it says, so this is again from Biden's campaign. It says the average American sewage pipe is 33 years old, with many pipes dating back 50 or even 100 years. It says the clean water advocacy group American Rivers has on the infrastructure section of its website. As a result, the average American sewage pipe is 33 years old, with many pipes dating back to 50 or even 100 years. So it's pretty much the same. I mean, they only change a couple of words, but that's plagiarism. As a journalism major, I studied, obviously the kind of the different aspects of journalism and how that can happen, and the different punishments that you receive when you do take part in plagiarism, and that's textbook example. It says the Biden campaign told Insider several citations were inadvertently left out of the final version of the 22-page document. As soon as we were made aware of it, we updated to include the proper citations. Biden's 1988 presidential campaign failed in part because of accusations of plagiarism. In one instance, Biden copied a speech from a UK politician who claimed to have been the first in his family to graduate from college, while the then Delaware senator actually had several relatives who had earned degrees. It says Biden also came under scrutiny for plagiarizing lines from a law journal at Syracuse University. It says, quote, "My intent was not to deceive anyone," Biden wrote upon being disciplined in law school. For if it were, I would not have been so blatant. Okay. So that's the end of the piece. I mean, listen, man, when it comes to people like Biden, I don't know if the guy is just incompetent or if he's just lazy. I think it's probably a combination. And honestly, obviously, because you do have a campaign, you have, you hire people to work for you and stuff. He just, I don't know. I think it's a combination of him being lazy and just hiring people that are just like idiots and people that don't know how to, run a good campaign. And, for all the issues that very little issues that, Bernie Sanders' campaign had as far as like dealing with like sexual harassment accusations and stuff, they still were very, very good overall. There was no situations where it involved plagiarism or where it involved any kind of sneaky behavior or anything. All the centrists and stuff accused Bernie Sanders of what was it, stealing information from the DNC or something. But then in reality, they actually reported the person that was stealing information from the DNC. But they acted like, oh my God, Bernie Sanders is behind all of this. So, yeah. So, I mean, just as a comparison, if you look at Bernie Sanders' campaign, his is a hell of a lot better. And he's only ran one, and now this is his second presidential campaign. Joe Biden has run 3 times. I think maybe even 4 times. So he ran in 1988, he ran in 2008, and now he's running in 2020. I think he ran in 1984, I want to say, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything about it, but that's what I've heard. People have said it, and I haven't really looked into it, but I'll take their word for it. Either way, though, 3 or 4 times of running, and you're still fucking absolutely incompetent in what you're doing. I mean, that's sad. Like, you can't even keep track of that stuff. Like, that's crazy. Like, how could you not be on top of that? But again, it's not, you're hiring people that are not able to do their jobs. You obviously are not able to do your job as far as being a decent politician. So you just fuck up, and then you expect to get away with it, and you assume people are not going to, you accept people are not going to call you out. But yeah, so like, people like Biden, when it comes to people like Biden, they just hope like they're not going to get caught for their stuff, for their corrupt stuff that they do. And a lot of times when they do, obviously they just explain it away. I think the campaign said they said it was a mistake, and then we changed it right away. But still, you still did it, and you still got caught for it. And when you have a history of a candidate doing something, there's no reason that they can't do it again. It's just like a cheater. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Once you get caught one time, there's no reason that you shouldn't, be accused of doing that again. Of course, if there is, evidence of them doing it again. And in this case, if you have it, like you have a history of it, and then there's like kind of some indication of it happening, it's not, I mean, you wouldn't be stupid to think that, wow, yeah, that's a little bit fishy, a little bit of a fishy business going on. So, yeah, but, Biden is just one of those people that I just don't think he has any core beliefs. And we're going to get to a story, in a second, talking about his, views on abortion and stuff and how he's flipped on that. But, that's another issue. That's another issue that he hasn't been consistent on. And he's been called out for it. And then, he still has the nerve to go out there and say, I'm the most progressive something, and, nobody can stand up to my progressive ideals and my progressive policies and my history of being a progressive. I mean, listen, and I've been having this conversation with multiple people. For some reason, it keeps coming up. But I think it's largely due to the rise of Biden, due to the rise of, Elizabeth Warren and stuff. But that label progressive has been hijacked badly. It has been hijacked badly by the Democratic Party, by the kind of the resistance base, and that whole stupid movement. And it's, as obviously somebody that is a progressive, that's, my label, that's who I am, that's how I identify myself as. It's on my freaking screen. It's on my freaking, my screen, not my screen name, but my my handle for Twitter and my handle for my Patreon and all that stuff. I obviously call myself Progressive Blacksmith. So I don't want to give up that label. That's my label. Like Kyle Kalinske, he does secular talk. He calls himself, he probably refers to him as a progressive. Well, he refers to him as a progressive too, but he's also secular as well. So, the whole progressive kind of thing, it's just, it's been hijacked, and it's something that we can't let go. It's not something that we can let them steal from us. And clearly Joe Biden is not a progressive. He is not somebody that you can trust. So whatever, he can call himself a progressive. Elizabeth Warren can call herself a progressive, even though she's super pro-capitalist, and she's voted for Trump's endless wars, expanding of, his military budget and stuff. So, I mean, these people are not actual progressives. And a lot of it is just a ploy to just get progressive votes. So to get people like me to vote for them, and I'm not going to do that. So yeah, it's just, you can't trust them. You can't trust these people. At the end of the day, it's something that you just have to watch out for and make sure you're not going to get bamboozled and fooled into, thinking that, oh yeah, these people are totally, they're totally sincere and legitimate in their grievances and what they're pushing for, but they're really not. It's just a bunch of marketing tactics, and it's a way to get you on board with something, and then at the end of the day, they're probably at the end of the campaign, and if they become president and stuff, they get into office, whether it's president, senate, or whatever, they're going to end up screwing you, and you can't trust that. So you just got to watch out for those things and make sure you don't get fooled. And always keep your eyes peeled. Always, and just one more thing I want to say: people need to stop worrying about labels so much. I know I call myself a progressive. That's my prerogative. I want to call myself a progressive. Somebody else can call themselves a communist, socialist, social democrat, democratic socialist, whatever. You want to call yourself that stuff, that's fine. But at the end of the day, don't worry about how people label themselves when it comes to like the leftist movement. Now you want to go around and talk about neoliberals and Democrats. I'm a Democrat. Yeah, like somebody calls themselves a Democrat. Yeah, call them out for that. But it's like within the leftist movement, there's a lot of specific labels they refer to leftism. They refer to that movement and they refer to that ideology. And a lot of us are pushing for the same things. I'm pushing for the same exact things that a lot of democratic socialists, social democrats, secularists, in some cases socialists, a lot of them are pushing for. I have a lot of sympathy for what some communists have to say, although I don't agree with them on everything. Anarchists, much, much less. But, again, I have sympathy for a lot of things that are said within are kind of pushed for within the kind of the socialist, leftist, progressive movement. And, yeah, so, but at the end of the day, just don't worry about all those labels. Those labels, they just mean, that's just how people like to identify themselves. But at the end of the day, you have to worry about the policy. The policy is what's important, and the policy is what you need to worry about somebody advocating for. As long as they're pushing for the right policy, then you're okay. Then it doesn't really matter what they call themselves, So always, that's just my advice. You can take it, and maybe you don't have to take it. But that's just the advice that I would give somebody if they were worried about somebody calling themselves a progressive, even though that's the same thing that, Joe Biden calls himself, or Hillary Clinton, God forbid, calls herself. I don't like it, but that's what they do. But that's only because they want to appeal to progressives who are actual progressives.